running for town meeting members or any committee members. So with a strong track record of success, we encourage those considering a candidacy to take advantage of this opportunity. I think in collaboration with other local organizations, leads the townwide candidates forum every year. And this year we are honored to collaborate with IEL, or Indian Americans of Lexington, CALEX, or Chinese Americans of Lexington, and Lexington Licensed Advocates. Now I would like to welcome all the candidates who are running for the townwide positions. For Select Board, we have Vinita Kumar, Don McKenna, Patrick Mayer, and Joe Badham. From Planning Board, we have, I don't see Tina yet, but I have texted her. I hope she will join. If not, then go ahead. And Tom Schreiber. And for School Committee, we have Sarah Carter, Larry Freeman, Eileen J., and Lena Hannison. Thank you all for stepping up to serve the town. And now some housekeeping rules. We have LexMedia, who is recording and is also being streamed live. Please have your cell phone in silent mode to be respectful of others. And then I just need cards over there, so please feel free to take the card and have your question and make sure that you write in there like who is it for, is it Select Board, Planning Board, or for School Committee. That would be helpful. And most important of all, the organizers are asking everyone here, both on the panel and in the audience side, to respectfully debate without demonizing others. And now I will hand it to you for Q&A section.
Hello everyone, my name is Yu Wu and I'm from Chinese Americans of Lexington Candidates. I'm a former committee member and it's my honor to be here to be the moderator for this segment of the Select Board candidates. We will have 5 questions in total and we will rotate the order of candidates who answer the question. So the first question, Vanita, you will go first, and then followed by Don, Patrick, and Joe. So the first question is, can you tell us about yourself and why you are running or re-running for this position? And each of you will have 1 minute, and we have a timer right in front of you. Thank you. You can go first.
Well, let me start with hello, ni hao, and namaste, everybody, for coming today. I'm Vinita Kumar, and I'm running for Lexington Select Board because I believe our town thrives when we bring thoughtful leadership, collaboration, and fresh perspectives to the table. As a business professional, civic leader, and an engaged community member, I've spent years listening, learning, and working to make Lexington better. My immigrant experience has shaped my deep appreciation for this town, and my work across various boards has given me the tools to navigate complex challenges, bring people together, and get things done. Lexington is at a crossroad, a growing multicultural town with aging infrastructure, lack of economic diversity, and lack of affordability. It's important to prioritize building new sources of revenue and plan smart, manageable growth in housing. These are the kind of issues I'm passionate about and I have the skills for. I'm running to bring a new voice, a unique perspective, and ensure we move forward with care, vision, and inclusivity. I look forward to sharing my ideas today and after, and I ask for your vote on March 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Don McKenna, and I want to thank you all for hosting. I've thanked the other 2 organizations previously, but I would particularly like to thank the Lyceum Group for being involved in this. It's a great use of their resources. And I mainly want to thank the audience. This is really an important election. I'm running because I think that there are serious challenges and we need proven leadership and strong leadership to meet this moment. And I thank you for taking the time on a beautiful day to come here. So far, I have knocked on over 800 doors because I believe in engaging with the community. I've heard from them what the issues are. The serious issues that we face are the consequences of the passing of Article 34, the costs and the direction of the high school, the need to make Lexington affordable, and that town government doesn't reflect the values of the residents. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Mayer. I'm running for one fundamental reason, which is that we have a structural problem in our town government. There is no long-range financial planning done of our future budgets, which leads to very dangerous mistakes like Article 34 that we've made, that we hopefully will correct soon, and a huge mistake we're making right now, which is the wrong design for Bloom, which is too small a school given the future enrollments we have. I feel unqualified to do this because I was trained at the French equivalent of MIT, and I worked for the Boston Consulting Group as a strategy consultant. And my friend Joe Pato here will say that he also was trained at MIT. Unfortunately, in his 12 years of being in town government, he never instituted long-range strategic planning of our budgets. And furthermore, he voted yes on Article 34, which in my view simply disqualifies him from even frankly sitting at this table. We could bankrupt the town. There is no way to absorb 10 times what the state wanted us to do, and we have to fix it very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for attending. Thank you for hosting. I'm running for re-election because I'm passionate about civic engagement, and I'm Joe Pato. I strongly believe in inclusivity and the power of community. It's important that everyone feel heard, valued, and empowered to participate in our future. I don't do drama. I do my homework. I apply deep analytic skills developed as a research computer scientist at HP Labs and MIT. And my initiatives are based on data and informed by our community values. My skills and track record are vital for addressing the challenges facing us. My priorities are to support a high school project that is fair to both our students and taxpayers, to right-size MBTA zoning to better manage growth, to sustain a bright future through prudent fiscal policies and thoughtful data-driven strategic planning. And it's been my honor to serve on the board. I hope to earn one of your 2 votes to continue this important work together. I'm Joe Pato.
Thank you so much for all of you. For the second question, the order will be Don, you go first, and then we follow by Patrick, Joe, and McKenna. The second question is, our Lexington residents are really concerned about the tax implications due to the proposed Lexington High School. So we are talking about tax override and high property tax in the coming years. Can you provide us the numbers, the consequence for the taxpayers, timeline for those payments? Is Lexington going to remain affordable for the people like us, from all ages and tax brackets? Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe, sorry, each of you have 2 minutes for this question.
Thank you. So I believe that Lexington needs the best brand new high school that we can do in a single project and within the current timeline. I went to Lexington High School as a student. I know the age of it. I know what it looked like then, and I know what it looks like now. My husband and I met at high school in 2nd grade. Always said we'd have 2 children and live on the Battle Green, and we do. And my children both went to the school, and my son currently still works there. So I understand the school. However, I am concerned about affordability. And what's really important is this project is going to put a burden on the taxpayers of about 10 to 14% per year. And we have to be concerned about it. Now, the town has been doing some things to address that, but my big concern about the cost is that the members of the SBC have indicated that they are building a project to get 50% of the vote plus 1. That, to me, is the wrong approach. They've also talked about building the fastest, cheapest, easiest project. That's not the way we've done any of our projects before when we built. We've engaged the whole community. This one has focused around the high school community. The best project that meets the needs is the one that I'm prepared to vote for. And we need more than the bare minimum support for this. We really need to engage everybody. We're talking about a 75-year-old school. I mean, a school that's going to last for 75 years. And I think it deserves the support of the community. We're not there yet. I'm prepared to lead the engagement process to make sure that everybody feels that we've done the best project that we can.
Without counting my time, could we let Tina McBride, who has arrived, take a seat here with us?
Of course. I apologize, my printer is not working.
We all have these kinds of problems, don't we?
Technology, right?
Yes.
Like better.
Technology kills us, it stops us from thinking. So, Dawn, thank you, but I'm afraid you didn't answer the question. The answer is very simple. We know from already Karen Kosnoff, our Director of Finance, that at $658 million, Bloom would increase our taxes by 10 to 14%. What most people don't understand is that given the number of MBTA new dwellings that we have, 88% of which are apartments, because those apartments pay only 36% of what a single-family home of the same size pay to the town, those MBTA dwellings will create massive deficits in our budgets. And I have computed what the tax increase would be to fill those deficits. And the answer is it's in the order of 25 to 35%. So if you add that to the 10 to 14%, we are talking about massive, massive tax increases, which will make the whole town more unaffordable than it already is, which is my message to the people who support MBTA housing in the name of affordable dwellings, which I very much would like to see here. There is a paradox. The more of those we allow in town, the more unaffordable the whole town becomes. So back to the question here, the tax increases would be huge. We haven't heard from Dawn how she would alleviate that, except by talking to people, but talk doesn't put money in your pocket in any way that I know of. The alternative is to dramatically increase class sizes in the schools, because that's the only way to reduce school expenses in a massive way, and that would destroy the quality of our schools. And so that is, by the way, why Bloom is a terrible idea. And I'm the only one here out of 4 candidates who says that clearly. Bloom is a terrible idea because it's too expensive, but most importantly because it's too small. And if it turns out to indeed be too small, we will have again to wait 8 years before the MSBA can fund it. And by the way, the MSBA funds only 16% of the cost of Bloom, whereas a simpler project would receive 31% funding.
Thank you.
That's all right. Let's go home.
Yes, ready.
So, thank you. The project that is being brought forward through the MSBA process is the lowest cost, fastest to develop, least disruptive, that satisfies the educational plan and MSBA criteria for proceeding. The project is going to be a valuable asset to the town, one that is a sound building, that is quality, that is intended to last for 75 years, and doesn't have frills. The guidance that the school building committee has given to the architects as they now go from conceptual ideas to actual designs is make it modest. We need a building that's quality construction because we need it to last and work well, but we do not need frills. The actual costs of this project are still to be determined. What we have are comparable costs based on per square footage costs for construction that are in our area. The analysis here is that this is substantially cheaper than all other approaches, including those approaches that have been brought to us by citizens that do not satisfy the MSBA process. And not satisfying the MSBA process is we are not eligible for over $100 million of assistance from the state. So the question is how to pay and how to reduce pressure on residential taxpayers. We've heard that it's going to be 10 to 14%. Well, that's general cost. That's not the impact on the taxpayer. The fiscal plan that's being put together by the town is a gradual ramp over 10 years, increasing about 1.5% the first year to 0.5% per year as we go. And the way to move forward is to diversify our revenue and to create tax programs that address those residents in need. Thank you.
Thank you all. And for the third question,
That's okay. That's all right.
Well, it looks like this is a complex question, okay? It talks about the high school, the tax impact, tax override. One, we are obviously looking at a debt exclusion, not an operating override. But just going back to Bloom versus the other plans, I think I'll just re-emphasize that Bloom is the only plan that has gone through the entire process, meets her education and plan, is going to be funded up to maybe more than $100 million by MSBA. And it meets all the requirements that our students need to go into a school and get 21st century level education. So even if there is a perfect plan out there and each one of us can come up with a plan that we think is perfect for our town, it is going to set us back in time and take us back into the queue for MSBA funding to go through the process. And as we know, time is money. The more we delay this, the more expensive this is going to be. I fail to understand how anything that we kick down further is going to be less expensive than what it's going to be now. Now, going to the tax implications, I think Joe has explained it, and a lot of that information is actually available on the school building committee side. There are facts and information based on the current estimate of the school. So it's an incremental year-on-year ramp-up in tax, and based on the various bond issuances that are going to be of various different sizes and maturities and durations. So it's not going to be a one-shot increase at one point that we will see. But I'm seeing the yellow card, so I'll just say this. As long as we are a growing town with capital expenditures that will keep coming up because we have infrastructure that is old, the way to do this is not to kill the infrastructure modernization, but to improve our revenue base. Build more commercial revenue base, broaden the base, and balance out the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And for the first question, we will go Patrick first, and followed by Joe, Vanessa, and Dawn. The question is, are you in support of Article 2? Yes or no? Why and what? If there are any changes you would like to see in this proposed amendment. Before we go to this question, let's move a little. Let's talk about some background about Article 2 and Article 34. So back to 2023, in response to the state NBTA multi-family zoning requirement, the planning board proposed Article 34 and the annual town meeting. The proposal committed 253 acres, which is 5 times than the acreage required by the state of Massachusetts, and called for more than 12,000 units, which is 10 times more than required by the state. And at the time, proponents of Article 34 estimated that 400 to 800 units would be built over the span of 4 to 10 years. However, as of today, less than 2 years after we passed the Article 34, the developer has submitted proposals that has already built 4,000 units, which the town has approved or will have to approve. Article 2 seeks to the partial rollback to the prevention of Article 34, where we still accept the state and BTA community art requirements by a significant margin. Additionally, this requires a non-binding resolution calling for the select board to evaluate and study the financial and other impact of zoning change on town services, infrastructure, residents, and business. It also proposes that planning board, in conjunction with the select board, consider appropriate measures to manage prudent and responsible growth in the housing moving forward. So now let's repeat the question for our third question. Are you in support of Article 2? Yes or no, and why? And what if there is any changes you would like to see in the proposed amendment? Thank you. And each of you will have 1.5 minutes for this question.
Yes. Yes, I support Article 2, the details of which don't matter at all. So anybody who looks to change the motion is totally off target as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to answer a question that I'm sure my friend Joe here on my left will ask. We have right now 1,120 new dwellings that are effectively approved because they've been applied for in 9 projects, which are by right. I watch twice a day the website of our building department for what's called preliminary subdivision plan applications. What those are a loophole in the state law which allows a developer to apply for one of these, which in this case grandfathers for 8 years from today's zoning, which is MBTA zoned, any application filed. And if you look at a range of scenarios from 15 dwellings per acre all the way to the highest we have among the 1,120 units, which is 80 dwellings per acre, you find that in round number, ballparking the 7 different applications I watch like a hawk every day, we have about 3,000 more dwellings that we will not be able to refuse. What that means is that 4,000 is the correct number, Joe, and that means that the population of this town would increase by 1/3, which makes Bloom a totally unreasonable project because it will be too small the day it opens, if it ever will, which I believe it will not.
So let me continue from there. We have 1,200 units that are in the pipeline. 0 have been built. The first one has broken ground. In the next 3 years or so, we should expect those 1,200 units, should financing appear for those developers to appear. So it's faster than what was thought, but it's not immensely faster. It's more and a bit faster. Let me explain a little bit about by right subdivisions. Because of what is coming to town meeting, a number of developers who had no intention to actually build this have submitted subdivision plans which are not plans for a project, but they're plans that allow them to freeze the zoning so they retain that option in the future. I've spoken to a few of them. They're commercial developers. They're actually, some of them are out on Hartwell Avenue, and they want to build commercial buildings, but they don't want to lose the ability to have the choice to do residential development over this time. So the quick answer, and I was meant to start, yes, I support the change via Article 2, because I do believe things have come too fast for us and we need the time to absorb. And we need the time to turn around and say there was value of what we were trying to create. It wasn't just being compliant with the law, it was because through the comprehensive plan process and decades of large single-family dwellings being built, the residents of the town have been saying we want a variety of housing at different price points that I can downsize to, I can walk to commercial areas. We need to be able to enable that again constructively.
Thank you.
So let's be honest. While the overwhelming response to the MBTA zoning act validates what a lucrative market we are, if the rate of applications, therefore implied growth, continues at this rate, it could pose a serious problem in terms of operations, finances, and our ability to provide services to our town members. It is a serious concern of our residents, and I share that concern. And therefore, I believe since Article 2 has made that attempt to solve that one problem, while it is not the perfect solution for everything we were trying to target within the MBTA Communities Act, it is the only solution that is available to us right now to control this rate of growth. And it would be reasonable and prudent of us to support that and go back to work on how we include everything else in the MBTA zoning that we had, including affordability, which is important for us within the comprehensive plan, and go back and work on that and bring that back in different ways. So I see this as a reasonable measure, and I support it.
Thank you. So I support the notion that we should meet and exceed the affordable housing goals of the MBTA. But our town took a serious gamble, led by Mr. Pato and others, to allow 10 times the number of units. And it has put us in a seriously unstable financial position. The free zoning was not as a result of what we did. It was a result of the fact that neither the select board nor the planning board recognized until the citizen brought forward the article and this campaign started bringing this issue forward, that the problem needs to be fixed immediately. And we wouldn't have been in that position, and we would have had something that everybody could agree with if, in fact, they had taken the action when it was obvious to everyone that there was a problem. And I supported in 2023 a different amendment. It's called the McKenna Amendment. You can look up who voted for what. And I am very proud that I have received the endorsement of the Lexington firefighters because they believe we need investments in critical fire and emergency services. Our water and sewer is reaching maximum capacity. The $700 million high school will be overcrowded before it ever breaks ground. And as one of the authors of Article 2, I fully support it. I will vote yes. It's the right plan for right now, and we must pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. For the first question, Jill will go first. This is the question. If you were elected, you will need to work with other members to be effective. Can you highlight one positive attribute about each of other candidates? And you have, each of you have 1.5 minute for this question.
Thank you. Working on the select board, it really is important to be collaborative. We work together both in public meeting where we are making decisions, but also we often will take sub-projects where two of us will work on a particular topic. And having a collaborative nature is an essential element for a successful member of the board. So let me speak of positive qualities. We'll start with Patrick on my right. He's developed an ebook publishing house to make nonfiction more accessible. He values the information and knowledge that can be made available. Ms. McKenna, Dawn, on his right, has devoted herself to improving tourist experience and tourism economy in town and in the state. Very helpful for our economic well-being. Vinita Kumar, at the end, has the makings of a great select board member. She actively engages with the public. She is respectful of residents, staff, and her colleagues. She works to clarify issues. She brings an analytic mind to hone into her experience as a business consultant. Having a collaborative board is essential.
Thank you, Joe. I think for all of us, I would like to believe that, working together, whoever gets elected would not be a problem, because I think we are all good at putting our differences aside and looking at what's common. But just to be specific, with Dawn, I've had the opportunity to see Dawn in town meeting over the last 8 years. The first time when I was new in town meeting and she was advocating for the new visitor center, and I could sense her passion for tourism at Lexington. I also find Dawn very articulate, which is a trait I admire. Patrick, while I don't necessarily agree with all of Patrick's conclusions from his analysis, I admire his passion for numbers and the tenacity to push his narrative. I love crunching numbers myself and can spend hours slicing and dicing data, so I can relate with it. Joe has committed several years to the town, and what I find admirable is that he puts himself out there regularly through an office hour to stay connected with the community. In public service, it's important to keep the door open, and I admire that.
Thank you. Well, many of you know me. You've seen me for decades going around the town talking to people. I engage with people because I really do value the residents of Lexington. My passion is meeting their needs and helping them, whether I agree with them or not. And I started the debate team at Lexington High School. And what I learned in that time was how important it was to talk to people that you know and understand and who value your opinions. But you really want to talk to the people who don't particularly value your opinions, because I learn a lot more from people whose opinions I don't value. But I have a history of bringing a coalition together. So let me talk about all of my colleagues here. I will gladly work with whoever is elected along with me. Vinita had the foresight to vote for my amendment and is currently concerned about the growth and has been willing to manage growth in a responsible manner, and I'm very grateful for that. Joe, I will always be grateful to you for bringing forward the technology for representative votes to be published in a way that brings transparency and positive advancement for all. And Patrick, I too value your ability to analyze data and to advocate for the pathway that you believe is best for Lexington.
So I think there's no question all four of us care about this town because it's indeed an extraordinary town which educated my two sons in a way I couldn't have dreamt of. So to the core of your question, starting kind of randomly, Vinita, I think we're a rich town because of all the new immigrants from various parts of the world which frankly didn't exist in this town 50 years ago. And I think, even though I don't like to judge people simply the way they look or their religion or whatever, the fact is I was proud that Ravi Sakuja got on the school committee as the first Indian American. And I would be delighted if you were the first Indian American on the select board. Why? Because I think Asian Americans understand numbers and make more rational decisions, frankly, than most of the rest of us. Okay? So that's for you. Dawn, you obviously know the town very well. I think in my book, your greatest claim to fame is to have fired Rick White, who was a disaster for this town. And so that's the good part. The bad part is I never know exactly what you believe in. You certainly believe Rick White was a disaster, which he was. On the Bloom, it's not clear to me which way you stand, and that's a problem for me, frankly. Joe, you clearly are devoted to the town. You ran unopposed 4 times. These must have been very hard campaigns, weren't they? So you've been on the board for 12 years. I salute that. Thank you very much. But I think at some point creativity disappears when one does the same thing for too long. And I think that's one of the problems we've had with Article 34.
Thank you so much. It's a great.
And also, I would like to reiterate this, that be respectful of your candidates.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
For the very last question, Vanita, you will go first, and then we'll take the order. Here is a question. Can you tell us why we should vote for you, and what differentiates you from the other candidates? And each of you have 1.5 minutes for this question.
Okay, I want to start by thanking Ivy, KLEX, and Lyceum for organizing this and giving us the opportunity. As to the question, I believe I bring a unique perspective to the board. Having lived in different parts of the world and experienced various cultures and systems, I chose Lexington as my home and integrated into this community from the ground up. These experiences allow me to see things differently than those who've lived here for decades, offering a fresh viewpoint that's currently missing on the board. I have led global teams and delivered transformative impact for Fortune 500 companies. That's the strategic thinking Lexington needs to reduce its residential tax burden and diversify revenue. I'm an independent thinker who evaluates data objectively and makes informed decisions with conviction. My vote on Article 34 exemplifies my ability to stand firm under pressure. I will also leverage strong local and state house relationships to bring bold solutions that unite Lexington. At every step, I will be guided by data, decency, and a deep commitment to Lexington's future. But most importantly, I will be guided by you, your voice, your priorities, and your hopes. For our town will shape my decisions. I humbly ask for your vote on March 3rd.
Thank you. Well, I think the most important thing that we need at this moment is real creative economic development. Lexington is getting less and less affordable. The burden on the residential taxpayer is 75% of our expenses. We are pricing seniors and working families out of Lexington. I have never been worried about that in the past, but my husband, who is an elementary school principal and teacher, and I are concerned about that for us now. We're not people of a lot of means. What differentiates me is that I think like an entrepreneur. I have a proven track record, as you've heard, in the developing the visitor center, the visitors-based economy. That included the visitor center, which we built as a public-private partnership, getting outside funds. I developed the award-winning Liberty Ride at a net zero cost to the town. I've tripled the hotel meals tax revenue. Just recently, we heard from Governor Healy that she's going to give us more tools to do so. And on the board, I'll be more effective in implementing policies that matter than I can from all my outside advocacy. And ultimately, I have a small business incubator idea that I think will help fill Lexington Center storefronts. And I want to personally thank you for being here and thank you for hopefully voting for me, and I personally ask for your vote. Thank you.
Well, I believe I bring unique skills to the issues that our town faces now, and they're a combination of very strong focus on fiscal responsibility. I just cannot stand it when the town or the school spend money they should not. And my friends here on the school committee know exactly what I'm referring to. We have elementary classrooms right now that are 22% or 14% empty, which costs the taxpayer $3 million a year. This to me is not acceptable. The skills I bring here are A, to look at data, and B, to think strategically long-term. And that's what we need to do if we're not to repeat the major mistakes that Article 34 represents, and that Bloom represents for the future should it ever be built. And so, this is what I have to offer. I also like to say that I'm not smart enough to come up with all the new ideas. It's very important for me to think out of the box. But I've discovered over the years that the best ideas I get because somebody talks to me about something they don't even realize that they're telling me. For example, I discovered that a teacher one day was talking to me casually, whose husband was working for IBM. Of course, take the family health plans from this town and not from IBM, which means that the town budget subsidizes IBM. I've talked about this with, actually, I believe Rick White even, and his various successors. Nothing has been done yet. My point is, I also listen to the public, but in a way that helps us target specific actions we can take to make the town more fiscally responsible in terms of how the budgets are managed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a track record of being a caring and effective member of the Select Board, leading in cooperation with my colleagues and the community. I work effectively with state leaders, serving on policy committees at the Mass Municipal Association to drive changes in state law for our benefit. I've earned endorsements for a re-election from our state senators, Cindy Friedman, the state representative, Michelle Sicolo, and from CalPAC. The Select Board is a collaborative body. We have no kings. A good member will seek and listen to the community concerns, clarify issues for reasoned debate, work collaboratively with other key stakeholders, be respectful of residents, staff, and volunteers, lead the community where it's willing to be led, and abide by our collective decisions. My track record shows I bring these attributes to the board. I go out of my way to create opportunities for community dialogue. I respect democracy. I never threaten to prevent voters from voting on an issue. I dig into issues, and I respect boundaries. I've driven millions of dollars of taxpayer and ratepayer savings through the town's adoption of sustainable systems and energy supplies. I've created lasting improvements to the strategic planning for the town through better data and statistical analysis. I'm Joe Pato. Thank you for your attendance, and I ask for one.
Thank you. Then let's move to the next segment. We are going to the planning board.
Well, hello. Congratulations, everyone. You've gotten through a lot of questions and answers in a very contested election, so everyone's still here. Okay, and now you can actually hear what I'm saying. Hi, I'm Meg Muckenhaupt, here representing the Lexington Lyceum Advocates. Civil discourse, so glad to see everyone here. and glad to have our candidates here to talk about issues that we all care about. We have here today Tina McBride, running for planning board, also Tom Scheibel. We are going to go Tina, Tom, Tima, you get the idea. We're going to have 4 total questions, and if you weren't tired about hearing about Article 34 and Article 2, we have a treat for you. We're going to planning board. So now, first question though, just to give you a little bit of relief from Article 34 and 2, can you tell us about yourself and why you're running or re-running for this position? Tina, you have question number. You have 1 minute to answer this question.
Hello, I'm Tina McBride, and let me know if I'm not speaking loudly enough. I was born and raised in Lexington. I moved around a lot after I graduated from high school, and I graduated from Columbia University, and then I returned home with my husband to raise our family. I've been an inclusionary housing advocate for over a decade and believe we need more missing middle, workforce, and affordable housing in healthy, green neighborhoods. Excuse me. In 2023, Mr. Scheibel and I were among 13 town meeting members who brought a compromise amendment led by Don McKenna to Article 34. However, when the amendment failed, I voted no on Article 34, and Tom voted yes. I voted no not against housing, but to ask the planning board to develop a sensible proposal in the 1.5 years remaining until the state-imposed deadline. I'm here today to ask you for your vote for planning board.
Hi, I'm Tom Scheibel. Thank you to the organizers and all of you for coming today. My family and I moved to Lexington in 2008. I got my start volunteering in town through the youth soccer club, where I eventually became president of the Lexington United Soccer Club, and also led the private effort to install the first set of lights on Lincoln Field in 2017. I joined town meeting in 2018 and became very interested in housing and zoning issues. I'm also now on the bike committee and on the zoning board of appeals. There's 3 reasons why I'm running. Number 1, to promote a vibrant town, and doing that through increasing the variety of housing to meet people in different circumstances and different ages. Number 2, encourage high-value commercial development. That's going to help us relieve the burden on residential taxpayers. And third is to foster environmentally friendly development when we're doing these projects. Thank you.
Question number 2. Now we're back to Article 34 again. When Article 34 came up for a vote in town meeting, you and Tina proposed an amendment which failed, and the original amendment came back on the floor. You, Tom, voted yes, while Tina voted no. Can you both tell us the thought process as to why you voted the way you did? You will have 2 minutes to answer this question. We will begin with Tom.
Great, thank you. So it's already been mentioned a few times about the McKenna amendment, which Don led, and Tina and I worked on that group together. As everybody understands, the intent behind that amendment was to start slow. There was a sense that things could go a little bit too fast. In retrospect, that amendment also would have allowed 70% of the development that we've seen to date. So it's just to say that clearly the amendment supporters weren't expecting that kind of development, and it was difficult for people to see exactly where the development opportunities were going to take place. If that amendment had passed, I think we would still have an Article 2 today that we'd be sitting here talking about. As far as the original motion goes, I definitely was in the camp where I wanted to see more housing in town to meet different types of housing. The region is in a housing crisis. We had an opportunity after many decades of really not doing much to break the logjam. And for that reason, I voted yes. That's what was in front of us. Many other folks voted yes who are on different sides of this debate, including, for example, one of the co-authors of Article 2. He himself voted for Article 2 at the time. Looking forward, though, I think these 1,100 units that are in the pipeline by my count, plus or minus, are going to provide housing, much needed housing for many different interesting cases. Young families, for sure, but also empty nesters who want to downsize and stay in town, grandparents who want to come and live near their grandkids, divorced parents who want to stay connected to their families. So there's a lot of good reasons why this housing is going to provide some much needed relief. And also, very importantly, 85% of the units are market rate, but 15% are truly affordable. And that's going to provide 160 units of affordable housing, more than we've produced in the last couple of decades. So overall, I think the concept is good. Thank you.
I'm going to read my remarks. I hope none of you mind. And that's not what I wanted to read. Sorry. So, I did join the amendment group, and unfortunately, the amendment did not reflect a lot of the concerns that I had. But when it failed, I voted no to ask the planning board to take the time to review. We had 20 months to comply, and why commit so many acres and settle for less inclusionary housing than we could get with other tools? The Cluster Housing Study Group and Mr. Scheipel were urging town meeting members to vote for Article 34. Despite the excessive acreage, despite unlimited density, increased height, decreased setbacks, despite the fact that Lexington still had 20 months to comply and to address the serious concerns many residents and town meeting members raised. We had time to address important issues, to revise the proposal to allow for mixed-use commercial and multifamily housing along bus routes that incorporated wide sidewalks, to allow tables, benches that invited and activated community interaction and reduced vehicle trips. Human-scale buildings with treed, green spaces to mitigate heat gain, eat carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen, and influence human chemistry and better neuroaesthetics. By eliminating the setbacks, we were underestimating the efficacy of mature trees and shrubs in managing flood events and stormwater, which we know are serious issues moving forward. Those are all part of good planning. We had time to get it right. We all make mistakes, but as elected members, we have the responsibility to listen to other people's concerns and heed warning signs from those with experience and foresight. Constraint matters. The planning board position is not the place for large experiments, not when the homes and families of our constituents, our neighbors, friends, and huge tax increases are at stake.
No, that was the signal, was it not?
Yes.
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 Thank
You
you.
will be speaking first next, Nina, so. All right. Question 3. Many Lexington residents are concerned about the proposed number of village overlay districts in Article 34. Do you think the Article 2 amendment, which reduces the number of zoning districts down to 2, eliminating Lexington Center and other overlay districts, is the correct alternative? Or do you think there is a better option? If yes, why? And if not, what would that option be and why? You will have 3 minutes to answer this question. Tina, you're first.
I will do my best to speak succinctly and fast. Is Article 2 enough? No. Should we pass Article 2? A resounding yes. We must get this adjustment on the books so we can start the work of amending the MBTA community's bylaw. We want better zoning for Lexington. We want to use better zoning tools for workforce housing, for seniors, for our young people to return to Lexington. The MBTA Act was a blunt instrument, good for 50 acres and 1,231 units, not a 250-acre sledgehammer. This year, I support Article 2 to scale back MBTA zoning. Just to clarify, I think most of us know that projects that are already in the pipeline will not be affected by the outcome of the Article 2 vote. But some people have asked me that. We've satisfied the state's ask for units and on only just under 10% of the acreage that we have committed. According to the members of the Appropriation Committee, we risk a budget deficit for every new 1,000 homes. There is an annual $4 to $12 million cost, which does not include capital spending. The current pace of development under the MBTA bylaw is untenable for Lexington, and the passage of Article 2 will allow us to take a breather and start to focus on how to make the MBTA communities better. We need to listen to residents and allow them to tell us what are their greatest concerns. Compile and aggregate all of the comments and proceed from there. I will not push an idea that is not completely processed by those I represent. What the planning board is responsible for in zoning isn't just zoning on paper. It's people's homes, their family life, their children's education, their everyday. An elected official said to me the other day that they wish there was not so much hyperbole and panic. I agree. It would be nice to not have so much panic. But when residents are going about their lives, their busy lives, living their everyday, and they get notification that from the town, that a 5-story building is going up next to them, when they did not know that rezoning had occurred, they had no idea. And I don't begrudge them their panic. I am also concerned. So yes, I support Article 2. We need to pass it and take the time we were originally afforded by the state to make good, thoughtful, and measured decisions. We should review setbacks and height allowances in the remaining MBTA districts if Article 2 passes. We should review special residential development allowable GFAs to ensure it's consistent with the intent of the bylaw. We need to educate residents about new accessory dwelling units, rules. We need to review condo conversions that would allow organic growth without disrupting neighborhoods and will enable home ownership. We need to explore.
Sorry, Tina.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see the.
It's okay.
That's all right.
Sorry
It was
about
a
that.
different noise, so I thought that you might be getting a telephone
Yeah,
call.
I know,
so
I'm
it's
sorry.
alarm.
I have more on my list. There's lots of things we can do.
Great.
Thank you.
Time to give you.
Great, thank you.
Yes, we are holding a pause until.
Yeah, sorry, let me restart this.
You ready?
Yeah, let me know.
3 minutes, Tom.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Before jumping into Article 2, there was a mention made about the role of the Cluster Housing Study Group for Article 34. And while it's flattering the credit that the group is getting for influencing town meeting, I think it might be a little bit overstated. Our group also strongly supported the amendment. My campaign manager, who's standing in the back, was the person who made the presentation for the McKenna amendment. I was the first person to speak in favor of it. And yet, despite our overwhelming influence, that amendment failed. In fact, my wife, who's a town meeting member, didn't even vote for it. So I would question quite how strong our influence was there. People were voting for many different reasons. With respect to Article 2, yes, I do support Article 2. I think it's important to give the town a breather. With respect to the question specifically about the districts, I agree that we should eliminate the zoning, the overlay districts on Hartwell Avenue. I think that's important, an important corridor for further commercial development, and I think we need to leave those parcels open. One thing I disagree with in the Article 2 is the inclusion of the Concord-Waltham district out of the 2 districts that they're keeping. The fact that that one is in there, I think, is not right. That part of town has seen a lot of development over the years, and I think it's better to distribute the development around town. I also think we should keep the center in the overlay. The center committee badly wants this. We should listen to them. It would lead to more vibrancy in our downtown. So although I support Article 2 and eventually want to see the planning board rework the details no matter what happens, I think it's important that in the interim we're not doing more harm. There are some other changes beyond the districts that I think we could make and should make before we vote on this on March 17th. I think the 15 dwelling units per acre limit is a little bit misguided. Since the article doesn't change the allowance on the size of buildings, what's going to happen is we're just going to see larger units, but fewer of them, and they're going to be even more expensive, which does not help at all with affordability. So it would be great to see a different approach to limiting the number of units beyond just this blanket limit on the number of dwelling units per acre. Beyond that, there's a bunch of things I'd love to see the planning board do, and I hope to be part of that if I get elected. Some of them, Ms. McBride mentioned, with respect to the building heights, step backs on the upper stories, putting in a story limit and not just a foot limit, Setbacks, I think, should be really revisited, and we should require some common open space. One other little detail, but you asked the folks on Affordable Housing Trust, the number of inclusionary housing units when you do that 15% computation is actually rounded down. If we had just rounded it up instead, we would see about an extra 8 affordable units coming our way. Lastly, I think we can do these, right now it's by right. I think we could introduce some aspects of special permit, but not blanket special permit on these developments. It should be for very specific items, for example, for height allowance or something that goes beyond what we think would fit best, so that the town would have a little more ability to negotiate those things. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now, the ultimate question for the planning board candidates. Can you tell us why we should vote for you? How are you different from the other candidate? Tom, you're up first. And you will have 1.5 minutes.
Thanks. I want to go in a slightly different direction. Many people have spoken, that I've spoken to, feel caught between their desire to see the proposed high school plan go forward and a worry that it won't meet projected enrollment needs because of the new housing. I am a yes on the balloon design, and I believe the analyses showing that we are still within our means with the new housing that is planned or on the horizon to make that school design work. We should, however, as I noted, slow the rate of growth going forward, and that's why I'm supporting Article 2. Whether it passes or fails, there will be significant work ahead for the planning board to refine the MBTA zoning so it's tailored to our town's needs. I'm trained as an engineer. I'm very detail-oriented. I'm analytical. I do my homework. I actually enjoy digging into bylaws and dissecting them, which is the reason why we formed that study group in the first place, was to educate ourselves on bylaws, on zoning bylaws, and to help educate other town meeting members. I'm committed to being a strong, realistic voice on the planning board, and will work hard to incorporate the thoughts of diverse voices of Lexington residents. Over the last 6 weeks, I've had over 50 one-on-one conversations. I've met with department heads in town. I've met with the town manager, police chief, head of DPW, economic development. I love learning what's on other people's minds and what they see on how to go forward with the town. I ask for your vote on March 3rd. Thank you.
One thing I want to point out when I ask you for your vote, and why I think I should be on the planning board, is that I am a demonstrated listener. When you're on the planning board, you're not on a crusade. You're supposed to be working on behalf of the people of Lexington. The passage of Article 34 is an example of that methodology. I listen. My opponent's position has changed significantly from even 2 months ago. Tom has now stated he supports the passage of Article 2, which is a good thing. I followed planning board meetings and proposed changes in sustainability and land use for over a decade. I understand Lexington's zoning, appetite for development, economics of land use, such as density and local government responsibility. I am your advocate. I hope to have allies in the room to seek better tools, but more important than the people who are at the table are the people that I bring in there with me. Our constituency, residents of Lexington that are not at the table, but are just as important as the members of the planning board. My responsibility will be to follow the comprehensive plan and empower our constituents who send us there. We have the responsibility to listen to others' concerns and heed warning signs from those with experience and foresight. I will never lose sight of my responsibilities to Lexington. Zoning changes need to be thoughtful, purposeful, and incremental. Please vote for me for planning board. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates. We appreciate you coming out today, and thank you for giving such thoughtful answers. On to the station.
1 second. Can you guys see me with the red and the you don't have that? I'll move on. 1 second.
My name is Meghana Kamolkar. I'm the second Vice President for IB. So I will ask the questions to the school committee candidates. I thought it would be helpful to mention that Sarah Carter is running unopposed for a seat that is for a 2-year term. Larry Freeman, Eileen J, and Lana Panasiuk are running for a 3-year term, and there are 2 seats open. So the first question is, can you tell us about yourself and why you are running or rerunning for this position? The sequence will be Sarah, Larry, Eileen, and Lana.
Hello, my name is Sarah Carter, and I'm running for the 2-year school committee position. I am running because I believe in Lexington's incredible potential to continue its tradition of educational excellence. As a forward-thinking community, we must ensure that our children are equipped with the skills and knowledge they will need to thrive in the future. I have dedicated much of my life to supporting students, families, and teachers in public education. I was a social studies teacher at the middle school and high school level, as well as an elementary school librarian for many years. In the variety of roles that I have had as a teacher, parent, and volunteer, I have learned how our schools operate day to day and gained valuable insight to both staff and family perspectives. If elected, I will be ready on day one because I understand how our system works and how to be an effective champion for students. I will make sure that I will be putting all children first, will be one of the guiding principles for any work that I do.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Freeman, and I am a father of 2 high school students, one of whom attends LHS. I am running for re-election to the Lexington School Committee because I believe in students first, students second, and students last. I am here to be a voice for students and families in our district. I am looking forward to your questions. I 100% believe that being a person with marginalized identities, I am a great representation for our students who also share marginalized identities. Coming from the South, I was told recently I've lost my accent, but growing up in the South, being black and gay, the world was very cruel. I felt alone and isolated. And just meeting with students, talking to students here in our district, I want to be their voice. I want them to see me and see what is possible. You are not alone, and I want to be the person to make sure that that's known throughout our district.
Thank you for this forum. My name is Eileen J, and I'm running for re-election to the school committee. As the current chair and with 9 years of experience, I'm running because I bring the skills and proven leadership we need now. I have the practical experience to face our challenges around budgets, buildings, and enrollment. Professionally, I have a doctorate in education from Harvard, where I worked as an educational researcher, so my passion is in teaching and learning. My vision is to maintain the academic excellence of our schools while also setting the foundation for our children's future success as critical thinkers, collaborators, and caring adults. I will focus on these priorities in my next term. Maintain the excellence of our schools while maintaining budgets, collaborate with the community to address school enrollment, ensure all students learn essential skills in literacy, math, and core abilities, support students' emotional needs so they feel safe, and provide equitable inclusion education that serves our most vulnerable students. I ask for your vote on Monday, March 3rd.
Hi, my name is Lana Panasiuk. I grew up in Russia in a family of teachers and engineers. We immigrated to America in '92 and settled in Lexington to raise our 5 children. Our 3 younger kids are still in middle and high school. As an active parent in Lexington for the 26 years, I've seen the schools evolve. I've led robotics, science, math clubs, coached hockey and soccer. I hold PhD from MIT in geophysics and MBA. I work as an experienced professional in science and technology. I'm running for the school committee to amplify a parent's voice because Lexington education system is falling behind. If elected, I will work with others to restore academic excellence, prioritize accountability from the school committee to the public, and increase transparency, ensuring the curriculum meets parents' expectations. Thank you.
Thank you. I will move on to the second question. What specific policies and actions will you propose to ensure that Lexington Public Schools adopt a racially, culturally, and religiously inclusive curriculum that does not cause children to feel diminished because of their identity? Many Lexington educators may lack the training and resources to teach these topics accurately and inclusively. Curriculum decisions often exclude input from affected communities with no clear process for addressing bias. Concerns have been raised about the framing of Indic history, LGBTQ+ identities, and other marginalized perspectives reflecting broader issues. You have 1.5 minutes to answer this question. We will start with Larry, move on to Eileen, then Lana, and Sarah.
Thank you. One significant action I would propose is that we engage with students. District leadership, school leadership should engage directly with students, asking them, how did you feel when this happened? What was your experience in this class? What was your experience in this particular history lesson? When I met with the Indian American students, particularly the Hindu students, and they really expressed and they articulated quite clearly to what they felt from the lessons that they were being taught, how it was not supportive, how they left that class questioning, who am I? You know, this is not my lived experience. This is not what my family's life is. And I feel like if we were to engage more with people and discuss lived experiences and not only what we read in books, lived experiences bring that emotion that a book just cannot always give you. And if we had opportunities, and as a district, we should be trying to create those opportunities to listen and learn. Not listen and pass judgment, not listen and say, well, that's not what we meant. I think we always have to question intent versus impact. I believe we always have good intentions when we pass policies and institute curriculum, but the impact is not always there.
Thank you. Eileen.
I have been a strong advocate for a racially and culturally inclusive curriculum while on the school committee. I've also worked on trying to pass legislation for an inclusive curriculum statewide. In 2022, LPS set a goal to create a K-12 DEI curriculum. Specific DEI lessons are being implemented this year in our elementary schools. Students explore the identities they may have, cultural, family, gender, religious, and learn about different identities of others. They learn to be respectful and accepting of all people and recognize unfairness and injustice. I'm passionate about this work because I've listened to the students, including the Indian American students that Larry talked about how they feel harmed when their heritage is taught inaccurately. We must ensure that our curriculum includes accurate histories, experiences, and contributions of underrepresented groups. It's vital that students see themselves and their identities affirmed. It also benefits all students to learn a more complete history. The action I propose is that we have a DEI team on the school committee, that's Larry and I at the moment, that we work with LPS curriculum leaders to identify gaps where more accurate representation is needed. And I believe that members from various community groups can help identify important topics that should be included, and they can play a really important role in assuring that what is taught is true and authentic to their experience.
Over my 26 years with Lexington schools, I've been impressed by how Lexingtonians embrace peace, tolerance, and diversity. Whether in international backgrounds or across professions or cultures, it's an exemplary community. I firmly believe that priorities in school should be academic excellence and hard work. By academic excellence, I mean recognizing that every child has the potential to excel in the different areas, whether it's math, science, literature, arts, sports, languages, or trades. As parents and teachers, it's our job to help children discover their strengths and teach them how to reach their potential. Even a few minutes of homework in elementary school can build a strong work ethic and teach children to work independently and take on new challenges. The focus on merit, effort, and the drive to excel should apply to every child in our diverse community. One reason I'm running for the school committee is to amplify parents' voices. We have a community rich in knowledge across professions and cultures, and the curriculum taught to our children must be transparent. Before new material is taught, it should be available to parents, with any changes clearly communicated for feedback and for approval. Thank you.
As a school committee member, it will be my responsibility to continually advocate for an inclusive environment in our schools. With my background as an educator, I can understand the educational purpose of teaching our students about topics that can be sensitive and challenging, like internment of Japanese citizens during World War II, the transatlantic slave trade, or even British colonialism. What is the value of these? It can help build community, it can help build empathy, and it can give students the language to talk about these hard subjects. Balanced with this, as a parent, I also have experienced frustration with choices made by the Lexington Public Schools. As a school committee member, it will be my job to make sure that I am available to hear from parents and hear your experiences and understand what your child is going through in the schools. I will do that by instituting regular office hours where we can have a dialogue and I can hear what your issues are. I want to have conversations, and I want to then work towards a solution with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to follow up. The specific question was if you have a policy in mind. So if you want, you can do 30 seconds each, starting with Barry, if you can reiterate our policy.
I don't have a written out policy in mind, but what I would like to see, a very high concept, is we set up opportunities, and whether these are part of professional development days, where teachers, curriculum directors meet with different people, groups, identities in the community, and let's talk about curriculum. Let's talk about lived experiences versus what's in a book, and make sure that they are aligned. And then that's what we will be presenting in our classroom. But I feel like those meetings are essential, collaboration is essential, and we as a district, we have to stop being so guarded about our curriculum and let it stand on its own 2 feet.
I think to add on to that, I think one of the challenges with trying to implement a DEI curriculum that we are trying very hard to do and committed to as a district is getting teachers on board and trained and comfortable in working with students around these issues. As Larry was saying, they need to hear what the experiences from people who have these lived experiences are, and they need to be able to support the students in this work. So I think that kind of training is essential as we move forward.
So policy is good. It helps us to make school committee accountable to the public. And what I mean by that, when everybody says we like to listen, but the problem is that there is no feedback loop. You are being listened to, but no action is taken, and nobody likes that. So we have to have policy, 1, 2, 3. I speak up as a parent, then the school committee makes an action, then there is a feedback, they go back, and then the parents can see what actually had happened. And that should be implemented in policy.
So as a former social studies teacher, I actually understand the issues sometimes teachers face where they're sometimes asked to teach things that they really don't have a great background in. And what I would advocate for is, as a school system, we establish professional training programs for our new teachers coming in, where they have the opportunity to be educated and learned about these topics that they might not have had the opportunity to learn about previously.
Thank you. I will move on to the next question. What will you do or have you done as a school committee member to prioritize literacy reform this year instead of letting vulnerable children fall through the cracks? At least 40 states have enacted policies requiring explicit phonics instruction, and a Massachusetts class action lawsuit has been filed against the creators of balanced literacy programs, alleging to harm students' reading development. Given this urgency, please be specific as to what you can and will do as a school committee member. You have 1.5 minutes to answer this question. We will start with Eileen, then move on to Dana, then Sarah, and then Larry.
Teaching students how to read is one of the fundamental responsibilities of a school system. We cannot have students getting to 3rd, 4th, 5th grade and beyond not knowing how to read. I believe that the teaching of phonics is a foundation for learning to read, and I'm glad that phonics is now taught in our kindergarten and 1st grade. LPS is also using better assessment tools to identify specific areas of difficulty for individual students. The key is to identify at-risk kids early. What I want to know is, are we catching at-risk kids early enough? Are they getting the right interventions, and how do we track their progress? As the chair, I've placed a review of this assessment data on our agenda for a school committee meeting in March. The data will help us see how many children are not reading grade level proficiency, what kind of progress there is over time, and how well curricular changes and interventions are working. The preliminary data shows that 80 to 85% of elementary students are proficient or above in reading. However, we must make sure that children who aren't meeting benchmarks are receiving services they need to gain the necessary skills in reading. The school committee can also play a role in making sure that curriculum review teams are looking at a variety of options for teaching literacy without falling back on past practice by default. It would also be worthwhile to look at other districts and how they found success at improving reading levels for their students.
As I've mentioned, having 5 children pass through Lexington Public Schools over the past 26 years has given me unique perspective on the changes within our schools. I have witnessed firsthand the evolution of the system and have been able to identify when our beloved school systems, our beloved schools begin to fall behind. This is one of the primary reasons I'm running for the school committee, to restore the level of academic excellence that we all expect and deserve. When the data indicate that 1 of 3 elementary students is reading below grade level, I see it reflected through my own children. If a child is naturally a strong reader, they progress smoothly through the elementary school, carrying with them the knowledge the parents have provided. However, when challenges arise in how a child's brain recognizes the letters and connects them to the meaning, we as the parents must rely on specialized literacy program. Unfortunately, the current approach has failed my child. I was compelled to take matters into my own hands and learn how to properly teach reading, utilizing all the senses, starting from phonics. If elected, I will work with my fellow committee members to introduce regular metrics that will help us identify students who need attention earlier and allow us to monitor their progress over time. It is essential that we not only support our students, but also ensure that teachers have the tools and training they need effectively to teach our children.
Thank you. Sarah?
One of the major tenets that I am following running for school committee is I would really love to ensure that we have data-driven evaluations that really look at the programs that we have instituted and ensure that we are making progress based on the policies. And this is a prime example of that. The new literacy program was instituted about a year ago. Paired with that, testing at the middle school level to see which students were below grade level. We're halfway through the year and the school committee has yet to hear an update on these programs. It was just at the last school committee meeting when parents were showing up and saying, what is going on with this program, that finally school committee said, oh, we should hear an update on this. These should have been built in a year ago. They should have had measurable times and metrics where they already had these in place instead of waiting for a parent to come and complain about it. Paired with this, Orton-Gillingham, which most people view is the gold standard for teaching our children who have fallen behind. In this case, LPS should work to include Orton-Gillingham training for their teachers who are working with students who've fallen behind. At this point, our teachers are getting Orton-Gillingham training. The funding for that is coming from LEF, not LPS.
Literacy, very important. I understand the whole act of campaigning. It's to slam the people who are in office. However, I must say that if you're not in office, it's harder for incumbents because we know data. We are actually there at every meeting. We don't just pop in. We have multiple things that are important to us. So I value parents. I listen to parents. We look at data. Literacy, I said in an interview the other day, I wish we could make school year 25-26 the year of literacy. That we talk about literacy every school committee meeting. If it's only 10 minutes, let's keep talking about it until our students are reading on grade level. But the students who are not comparing us to other districts, we're doing well. We're not a failing district. And these doom and gloom stories that get told from any candidate at this table, those are just not accurate stories. We are in a high-performing district. Our students do well. Are we perfect? Absolutely no. So we have to keep trying to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is Article 34 question. How do you see our town would have to budget to cover additional students from 1,100 new units and potentially more? You have 1.5 minutes to answer this question. We will start with Lana, then Sarah, Larry, and Aidan.
If elected, I will ensure that budget is made publicly available for analysis with a focus on long-term planning. Transparency is the key, and I believe the community should have access to understand how our funds being allocated. I will collaborate with the committee and school administration to assess current spending and reevaluate the performance and necessity of existing programs and positions, especially those that do not face students. It is essential that the town and the community are actively involved in this process, as spending priorities must be clear and supported by the community. Additionally, I believe we need to take more progressive approach to long-term enrollment projections, leaning towards overestimating rather than underestimating. The consequences of an inaccurate enrollment prediction are too significant to ignore. It's okay if we overestimate number of kids coming to the schools and be prepared for that. The schools are still going to be just slightly over capacity, but not as bad as right now. However, if we underestimate, particularly with the influx of students from MBA units, we could be forced into urgent, costly emergency measures that would disrupt our already tightly packed school communities. Above all, we must prioritize the well-being of our children and the community. Their needs should be always come first in every decision we make.
Thank you. Sarah.
So legally, we have to accept into the schools any child who lives in Lexington who wants to come here. And as part of our core values of we all belong, we will do that gladly and welcoming. And I believe looking at enrollment data, we have the capacity to bring in students from those 1,100 units. At the elementary level, we've had a lower enrollment numbers, and putting it over K through 12, we should have no problem accepting these students into our schools. Budgets are complex systems that as a school committee member, every year we will be looking at and evaluating and making choices. But the dollar that we're talking about, they're talking about students and they're talking about our children's education, and we must take that into account. Currently, we're looking at a deficit for next year, and we need to make sure that we are making choices that are benefiting our children in the long run. One of the proposals put forward by one of the school committee candidates, and I asked the other candidates if they support this or not, is cutting 25 elementary school classroom teachers next year to push students together into smaller classrooms, fewer number of classrooms, where enrollment side averages would go from 18 students to over 24 students in a classroom. This is bad planning that is not to the benefit of our students, and I wonder if other candidates support this plan.
I work in finance. I work at a global financial software company. So I understand budgeting. I didn't grow up in a wealthy town like Lexington. I'm not a wealthy person, though I live in Lexington. We are a working class family. It takes both me and my husband. We work full-time jobs to survive here. But we love Lexington. We love the education system here. You know, so not being wealthy, what's going to happen in our district is we're going to have to make choices, just like we do at home. What's the need versus what's a want? What's a must-have versus a nice-have? And I don't think that that's any different than what any of us do at home. We budget, and you make hard choices. You go without on things that are not essential. But those essential things, like having your lights on or having your gas working, those things, they come first. In a school district, it's educating our students first. Student outcomes come first. And, you know, in a lot of ways, it's unfortunate when we talk about students, we have to associate a dollar amount with that. But that's the reality of where we live and, you know, the country we're in, that where you live and the education you get is really dependent upon the zip codes you live in. And that's so very unfortunate. Every child in our district belongs here and should get a quality education.
LPS constantly does enrollment monitoring throughout the year and projecting numbers of students. In this particular case, the planning involves getting a better handle on the number of students in new housing developments and what that's likely to yield. Recently, LPS did a study of student density numbers in past housing developments. The numbers of students were very low in one-bedroom units, 0.03 to 0.8 students on average. In two bedrooms, it was 0.1 to 0.3 students, and so on. Of the new developments in the pipeline, 60% of the units are one bedroom, and so less likely to bring in many school-age students. While historical data can't necessarily predict future patterns, the study did an analysis of potential student density of 5 of the new developments. The yield was about 250 added students, about half of them at the elementary level. And if the other remaining developments are built, that number might be roughly doubled. And as we've talked about quite a lot today, if Article 2 at special town meeting happens, then there could be a significant reduction in the pace of those housing developments. As we plan our budgets, we need to anticipate operating costs for potential new students. And we know this may be challenging, but the school committee just approved a balanced budget for FY26. Going forward, we will make every effort to maintain our excellent education system while being fiscally prudent in balancing our budget. And in doing so, we always try to make sure that, that any reductions we do are not going to affect the quality of education. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe this is the last prepared question, and then we will be doing audience questions. This question is, can you tell us why we should vote for you? How are you different from the other candidates? You have 1.5 minutes again. We will start with Lana, and then Sarah, Larry, and Eileen.
You want to start with me again?
Yes.
That's okay.
Did she start last time?
Did she
Yeah, I did start last time.
I'm going by. So is it okay if we start with Sarah?
Sure.
Okay, so Sarah, Larry, Eileen, and Lana.
I am running for school committee because I believe in the excellence and strength of Lexington Public Schools. My job as a parent is to ensure that my children are getting the opportunities and best education they can. School committee is working to ensure that this is true for all of our students. And I will make sure that children are central to all my decisions. How will I do that? School committee is a collaborative board and must work together with other members to get anything done. I have a history of doing just that. I look around this room and I see Lynn in the back, who I worked with in Girl Scouts. I see Mona here in front, who I worked with on CPAC. I see Christina and Stephanie, who I spent many years on PTO boards working beside. I have been responsible for managing and running an array of projects. In all of these circumstances, I have needed to work with other people who often have a different point of view from me, but I have learned how to work with them towards a common goal. I will use those skills while on school committee to advocate for the issues that are important to our community.
What makes me different? Why you should vote for me? I want to start first by saying, one, I consider an excellent education to include more than just math and science engineering. It's way more than that. It's giving students the tools they're going to need to survive in a global society. So yes, things like accepting other students' differences, different genders, different identities, different religions, different cultures. This is what our students are going to have to deal with in a global society. No longer will they live in Lexington. They won't be in our little bubble, so they have to be prepared. So I think that's one thing that makes me different. I want to educate the total child. The child that can go out and be productive, be successful in society. Another thing that I feel makes me different is I actively seek input from students. Like, to me, that's the best gauge. That's how you get the pulse of how you're doing in a district. If you're not talking to students, you're getting third-party information. You're getting information that's influenced by what you see, but not that lived experience of what the student is saying. I have children in high school, and of course, like any parent, I'm always taking somebody somewhere. We have a carpool for every kind of situation. So I have access, and I hear what they're talking about. I ask questions while we're in the car. I appreciate all of that feedback, and I try to bring that into our policies. Thank you.
What I bring to the school committee is a wealth of experience, a passion for education, and a deep caring for our students. More than ever, experience matters as we face serious challenges around budgets, building, and enrollment concerns. I've been managing tough issues for many years, and I have a solid grasp of school and municipal finance, operations, and facilities. That knowledge takes years to develop. New members need time to come up to speed, but with so much at stake, we need seasoned, capable leaders. I will work hard to find solutions that balance the educational needs of our students with the concerns of residential taxpayers. I have a professional background in education, so my passion is finding the best ways to teach our students. My depth of knowledge of our schools helps me to address issues with nuanced thinking and to seek improvements with an innovative approach. As an educator, I want to uphold the academic excellence of our schools. I seek to build things up, not knock them down. However, I believe education is more than just academics. It's also our responsibility to cultivate personal qualities that prepare our students for their futures as informed citizens and compassionate adults. Caring for students is at the heart of what I do. I've listened to students who want their heritage accurately represented. I've sat with countless students who suffer from stress and anxiety or feel unseen. I feel personally compelled to do right by all our students, and every decision I make as a school committee member is driven by my core belief in doing what's best for students, and I ask for your vote on Monday, March 3rd.
I identified 4 things what makes me different. 1, I still have children in the system. I've been a parent in Lexington for over 26 years, and 3 children are still in school and will be there for another 7 years. This gives me a unique perspective on how our schools have evolved and what they're capable of. Any policy changes, no matter how well-intentioned, I will be experiencing firsthand through my children and through communication with other parents. 2nd, analytical mindset. With a strong background in science, technology, and business, I bring an analytical mindset, attention to the details, and focus on clear communication. I believe in using common sense, speaking up, and asking tough questions to get things done. 3, my community service. Through my 33 years community service in the United States, including 26 years in Lexington, I've developed an ability to prioritize based on the needs of children. My experience coaching both academic subjects and sports has given me insight into the needs of kids and their families. And the last one, I'm an immigrant. I understand the challenges of balancing traditions from my home country while embracing American values. I'm deeply aware of the importance of connecting children to their heritage, to their extended families far abroad. I also know the difficulties of long international flights and expensive trips, especially during short vacation weeks. Please vote for me. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you to the candidates. Thank you to everyone. We will move to audience questions, which will be read by Samita and will be curated by Anil, who is sitting next to her. Thank you.
How long do they have to answer?
Do you have time?
Because we don't have time. Oh, 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you everyone. My name is Samita Mundalia.
Can't hear you.
Just hold the mic.
Now? Thank you.
You have the part, Joe.
Thank you everyone. My name is Samita Mundalia here, and I'm here to ask some questions from our very patient audience today. So we'll just, because of lack of time, so we'll just try to go as fast as we can. This question is for the select board. Can you talk about the opportunities to expand our revenue base? Where would that come from, and what would need to happen to make it impossible? How much would that affect the fiscal picture in Lexington over the next 5 to 10 years? We could start with Joe maybe and go in that order.
Increasing our revenues is a variety of paths. One is trying to stimulate our large commercial areas, and we've made some zoning changes over the years. Right now we're in a commercial development slump, but that's a cyclical process, and we should expect that to come back sometime over the next decade. But it's also stimulating small economic growth, creating changes in both bylaws, zoning bylaws, and in regulatory controls for things like the center, where we are seeing an uptick in vibrancy. But there have been businesses who've been looking for adjustments in what they're allowed to do so that they get additional revenue streams that both benefit them and will increase revenues to the town. And I've run out of time.
Thank you, Joe. Patrick, would be next.
Yeah, I second what Joe said. As a former Parisian, I think the town center, and I disagree with Dawn on this, should be 4, 5, 6 stories tall. I don't frankly care much about whether the sun shines on one side or not. That would mean more residents in the center, especially seniors, and that would mean, or young people without kids, and that would mean much more activity in restaurants, etc. So that's one thing I would push for. Of course, more real commercial development on Hartwood Avenue, etc., would be desirable. But the other idea I think we should push is that we have some very wealthy people in this town. And wealthy people, can decide what they do with their money. And if they wanted to spend it on improving some public facilities in town, that's certainly what I have done by creating an endowment for the music program at LHS, because my second son is now a professor studying why music exists in humans. And this is all because Jeff Leonard was a fantastic mentor. So I think we should go around the town and find people who would be willing to invest in things.
So one of the key things in a municipality is to have someone who thinks like an entrepreneur, and that's me. And the first thing we need to do is invest the resources in the economic development office that we have. They have been busy trying to deal with a lot of things without the resources that they need. And I look at our opportunity with ARPA funds, which are the American Rescue funds that came forward in the last administration. We spent those funds on doing a lot of infrastructure things, a lot of operating expenses, rather than growing our economy. And we should have been investing it in our tourism industry, which was severely hit at that time. We are coming back now, but we could have made it happen a lot faster with that investment. As I mentioned, I have an idea for an incubator in which we provide a building at lower costs with the agreement that people are in there are going to stay in Lexington for some number of years after we've invested heavily. So those are the kind of things that I can bring, and thank you very much.
Well, 75% of our revenue actually comes from residential taxes, or tax revenue actually. So needless to say, we do need to broaden our commercial revenue base so that the residential revenue can be balanced better and our residents don't feel the pain. We started with the lab program. It is obviously in a slump right now, but there are other ideas. This is another area that I found we probably have in common. I've been thinking about this incubator and accelerator idea. So we can consider other sectors that can actually give us the opportunity that we were hoping to have from the lab sector. And it is also expected to come back, hopefully soon. It's also, obviously we need to look at how we zone better. But the impact is not going to come from small incremental changes. What Lexington needs right now with the slew of capital projects that we have in the pipeline is really large transformative impact, right? And that's not going to come from small incremental revenue.
Thank you, Benita. This question is for our school committee. Do you support serious talks, yes or no, which is a curriculum in our schools will support inclusion and diversity?
Do you want me to start so I have the microphone?
Yeah, sure. You can start that.
Like I was talking about earlier, it is important that we give our students the skills to have hard conversations about race, conversation about history, conversation about who they are. And that's what Serious Talks really is. Starting at a young age, we set up state and teacher-led curriculum and opportunities to talk about race, to talk about families. Because in our community, we are very diverse. And we want to make sure that children and students feel safe and comfortable to talk about, in my family, I don't have my dad living with me. Or my grandparents actually live with me, and they're my major caregivers. And that's what really Serious Talks is about, is giving students the skills to have these types of conversations.
Of course, I support Serious Talks. I'm a black gay man, so yes, I support Serious Talks. And what Serious Talks does to me is it gives voice, it gives light to marginalized identities that quite often go underrepresented and misrepresented. It shows that families like mine, we're just like any other family. It shows that to our students in a very grade appropriate way. And these are the things that our students are going to need when they go out into a global world. How do you deal with the gay guy 2 offices down? That's going to happen. And trying to hide that fact from our students is not setting them up for success. How do you talk to the Hindu guy in the break room? these are very important cultural differences that it's part of life. I work with people from India every day, so I'm up very early in the morning. But and my coworkers ask me all the time, well, why do they talk to you so much? And I say, because I see them as people. I have more in common with them than I have different from them. So yes, we do talk about Diwali. Yes, we talk about holidays. Yes, we talk about samosas.
Yes, I do support that curriculum. It's no longer called Serious Talks. It's folded into exactly what I described earlier with our DEI curriculum. But one thing that happened when that 2 years ago, when there was a lot of concern about the Serious Talks curriculum, is that I think people didn't really understand what it was. I think it's very much like what Sarah just described. It's an opportunity for students to learn about themselves, their own identities, and recognize that others have identities as well. And the reason that's important is that it really is very affirming to students when they see that others are recognizing them and accepting them for who they are. And I know, and I think starting at early ages, in very age-appropriate ways is the way to do that. And because as they get older, they are going to be more prepared for their future, exactly as Larry said, and be accepting of all people.
I would like you to remember, again, the history of 26 years I've been here in schools. My kids don't make a distinction. We might, but they don't. They have friends from all different communities, different color, different, whatever comes up. Whenever I ask them, they're like, but they're all friends, and those are my friends. And I have friends in the community, and I don't have any distinction between them. And it's always been value of the Lexington, it's normality. What Eileen says, age appropriately, I completely agree with that. That has to be aged appropriate. It has to be represented for the entire community. The school committee represents the entire community. If there are parents who require the transparency of the curriculum to be delivered before the classes are taught, that has to be a norm, because those parents represent the community as well, and school committee has to abide. The parents should not wait for this curriculum to be shown, and if they wish for, they should have opportunity to opt out. That's their right, they are parents.
Thank you. Maybe we have time for one more question and we can take to the planning board. Can you speak directly to what you think and will be affordable? The units being built and planned are bigger in square feet than my very adequate single family home and will certainly sell for nearly or more than 1 million each. So we can start. Tina, you want to go? Tom, you can go. Sure.
Yeah, hi, thanks. So the MBTA Communities Act was always about creating more housing. We were able to get 15% of affordable housing at the 80% AMI level. Basically, the condominiums are going to provide a first rung on the ownership ladder for people coming into Lexington. I did the math on even at 110% area median income is not enough income to buy even the least expensive home that sold in 2024, which was $800,000. So the days of buying a single family home in Lexington as a starter home, those days are unfortunately gone. I think condos are now going to be more of that first step on the ladder. A lot of the units are in fact very, very small. 60% of them, as we heard, are 1-bedroom units. So, and even the 2 bedrooms are smaller than what we see existing in Lexington already. So in fact, I think these are going to be smaller units that are going to be more affordable because it's less square feet.
This is part of the issue that a number of us had with the MBTA communities initially and ongoing. MBTA Communities Act was not to provide affordable housing or affordability. MBTA Communities was simply specifically to create more housing. And in Lexington, because of our economics and our appetite for development, those housing units are not going to be affordable. This is why it was such a mistake to overcommit in terms of acreage. We have so many other tools that are available to us that we could have used if we really want to see affordable housing, which is what we keep saying we want. If we want it, we have to do something else. The MBTA communities was not the solution. I would like to see smaller units. The MBTA communities is by right, so we have no control over that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. I guess that's all we can do on questions. So thank you very much. And we do have some wonderful candidates here who are contesting for town meeting. So I request everyone to stand up. And the candidates who are running for town meeting this year to stand up and wave their hands and just show your faces. Thank you. Good luck to everyone. Yes, please. Thank you. So the 2025 annual town election is on Monday, March 3rd, and the polling booths will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And here are the new polling locations information for precincts 1, 2, 5, and 7 have finally been changed to the Carey Memorial Building, effective as of December 16, 2024. So please feel free to take a screenshot in case you don't know. And I appreciate all your time, and thank you very much. Anita will just have the closing statement.
On behalf of CALEX, Lexington advocates IA and IA, I sincerely thank you all for attending the Candidates Forum. Hope you found this discussion informative, and we appreciate your thoughtful questions and active participation in the democratic process. A big thank you to the community center staff for all their support in ensuring the event ran smoothly. Please have samosas and chai and other refreshment, and next time we have it over there as well. So thank you all.
all the candidates and all of the organizers.